The offseason is going to suck for the White Sox. Let's discuss why with my guest next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the FanSided Network, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already, and also follow or subscribe to the show at wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the White Sox are not going to spend any money in free agency to improve a roster that went 41-121. Plus, they're likely to trade Garrett Crochet. At least the Sox have a new manager in Will Venable, and I spoke with Barstool Chicago's White Sox Dave to discuss how the offseason is going to be bad since they're not going to spend any money, like I just said, and plus his thoughts on Venable's hiring and a little game of which is worse. But before I get into that, you can start with the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So here is the first part of my conversation with White Sox Dave, who, love him or hate him, the man is passionate about this team. All right, first, White Sox Dave, can I call you White Sox Dave even if I don't know you like that? And second, just how much is this offseason going to suck?
Yes, you can call me White Sox Dave, even though at this juncture of my life, it is kind of, I hate being known as that because I hate being associated with the garbage that is the Chicago White Sox, even if it's like a weird internet persona association, but I hate it nonetheless. So like, for instance, I like playing Call of Duty. We used to stream it constantly for work during the pandemic. And so my username, since I streamed it for work, is White Sox Dave. I can't log into Call of Duty right now without someone not talking trash to me, but literally apologizing. They apologize to me for being a White Sox fan. Like, they don't know who I am on the internet or anything. They're like, oh man, I'm sorry. And that's the worst thing on earth to me. So at this moment, I hate it, but it is kind of who I am at this point. So yeah, fire away.
Well, how much is this offseason going to suck? Because, like, for example, you've been really good. Like, I remember watching you on Foul Territory just firing off at how bad the White Sox season went. And now that they're not going to spend any money, it seems like this offseason is going to suck.
Yeah, so I don't know if this was a mistake or not, but when they had the introductory Zoom with Will Venable, what was that, Friday of last week, I believe, a couple days ago, I randomly got an email with the Zoom link, and I was allowed to they were letting people raise their hands in the Zoom and ask questions of Venable. And I was in line for like 30 minutes waiting to and ask a question. And my question was going to be, so he just talked about how like it starts at the bottom, like player development, and Getz was on the call too. And I'm like, you talk all this like great stuff about like player, like when do you guys plan on winning actual baseball games at the major league level? And that was going to be my only question, because they kept talking about like how this is a long, I'm like, you just lost 101 games, I think it was 2 years ago. You lost a historic amount last year. When are you going to plan? And they didn't let me ask the question because they knew that I was going to get not hostile, but I was going to ask questions that they didn't want to answer. So that rubbed me the wrong way, but that's what they do. They just rub me the wrong way at this point. They don't really do much correct. And even with all the new hirings and everything, this offseason is going to be brutal. It's like, I understand Getz's position that he's in. Like, it's not an easy task working under Jerry Reinsdorf, considering all the inherent obstacles he has just by his ownership group. But it's like, they're staring down the barrel of another 100 loss season. And to me, like that, if you're the White Sox, you theoretically you should be bullying this division year in and year out. You're in the largest market by far, and they don't. It's consistently the other three and now four teams in the Royals are pretty good now. They got the best player in the division. The Guardians have been good for a decade plus. The Twins are the Twins, and the Tigers look like they're a good ball club. And they tried using that excuse last year that, like, look at the division. Well, the division's awesome now. And you guys are like, you guys have to make up, not just 20 games just to get to 100 loss season. So it's really deflating knowing that this offseason is just like whoop-de-doo. They hired a good manager, maybe. But like, what does it matter if he has no roster to compete with? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and none of that's going to get gloomier because it sounds like they're going to have to trade Garrett Crochet.
Which makes me sick.
Yeah. And is that something that actually needs to happen?
I don't think so at all. I get how fans have an affinity for prospects and prospect hoarding, and because the Orioles did it, the Astros did it, the Cubs did it years ago, obviously. And it's cool going to MLB Pipeline and seeing a bunch of like your future in those rankings, But like, I'm looking at this and I watched Garrett Crochet pitch this year, and I like, as a guy who's been around baseball beyond what I do on the internet for it, like he is a left-handed Justin Verlander. That's a guy that's going to give you workhorse innings every single year. Yes, he's had injuries in the past, but if you look at, he has nothing going on in his brain other than get the ball and throw the ball. That is the exact ace you want leading your rotation for years to come. And they talk about getting in the goodwill of the fan base again. Extend that guy. You don't have any money on the books moving forward. Yo's gone. Eloy's obviously, he's out of baseball probably. Like everything's off the books. Extend that guy, pay him what he wants to stay here for 8-10 years or whatever, and make him your rotational linchpin for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and also just imagine.
And then you got Hagen Smith, and then you got that Plainfield kid, Schultz. That's 3 awesome lefties right there. And then what I absolutely think that they should do this winter is go hard at Walker Buehler. Go hard at Walker Buehler. And this is all hypotheticals. Obviously, that will never happen because of who owns the team. But that's an awesome 4 pitchers right there. How about that for a start, huh? But that they won't do that. Instead, they're going to trade and rob Peter to pay Paul. And they're going to more than likely trade Crochet. They're not even going to entertain extending him because of financial limitations, which makes me want to puke. And round and round we go.
Circling back to the financial limitations, one of the reasons they're going to have financial limitations is this basically what I would say embarrassing launch of CHSN not being on Comcast. Mm-hmm. Barstool Chicago has been great at hammering them.
Here's the thing, like Ryan Chief rather had that rant about like how all our teams suck. And obviously I hate the Cubs. I'm not a hockey fan at all. Like I was leading the fair weather fan pack when they were winning cups, of course, but like I'm not a hockey guy. I'm baseball, football. And I don't even care if they're not on TV next year. I'm at the point where like the more stuff they do bad that embarrasses them, where they embarrass themselves, like I see that as a good thing. It's like I used this analogy before. It's almost like a puppy that took a dump on the living room carpet and you rub his nose in it, Like I think they need to continually just embarrass themselves so they eventually learn like, hey, we are doing everything wrong. And this is just an extension of that. The whole TV deal that's it's an it's the operating word. It's an embarrassment. And I don't even care if I don't have to watch them next year because they're going to lose 100 times.
Yeah, well, the other thing too is that's also one of the things that they're going to hide behind not spending this offseason is the unknown revenue streams of the RSNs dying, even though it's like, Jerry, you got to accept that model is dead. It's gone. Figure out
it's done so.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know the ins and outs of this kind of thing. This is so beyond my brain power, but like just looking at it from like a 30,000 foot view, how does a businessman of Jerry Reinsdorf's stature, like, how does he keep getting stuck in his own ways like this? Obviously he's had a highly successful life, and like it's obvious to me and you guys that are just bums on a Zoom link right now that that's not the way to go. Mm-hmm. So how does he think that's the way to go? Or how do the Blackhawks and the Bulls obviously are his entity too? How do they think that's the way to go? Like where are they getting this from?
Yeah. No, and the other thing is too, is you think about it too, you're asking for taxpayer dollars, 1.7 billion of a 1.9 billion, and you won't even
enter. Did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you won't even entertain, say, going out and maybe getting let's see, an attraction like Juan Soto, or even maybe really good players that could help you long-term for the next 4 or 5 years, even in your clubhouse fixes, like let's say Willie Adames or Anthony Santander. That's the most frustrating thing about why this offseason is going to suck.
I said it. Who was that? I replied to someone on Twitter after the regular season ended. They just lost 120 whatever games it was. And the way I see it, if you're historically bad, that should make you all the more enticing to go and get a historically good player. Right? Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, if you just lost the most games that's ever been lost ever in the history of the game, why wouldn't you be like, we need to go get the best player possible so we don't do that again? Obviously, there's gray area, and it's not as easy as that. And Juan Soto, you probably have to pay him $1 billion to play on the South Side.
Yeah.
However, it's beyond that to me, because not only did he do it last year with the Shohei Ohtani comment, they did it this year saying we're not going to be adding in free. It's like, what are you talking about? This is how you've operated for the last 20 years, since 2005, trying like mixing and matching, trying to catch lightning, and it clearly doesn't work. So why do the same thing over and over again? It's just round and round we go.
And I want to circle back to when you said prospect hoarding. Sorry for interrupting, but when you said prospect hoarding and how they're bad at like doing the right things, you can say, for example, we want to give some of our guys runway. There's nothing wrong with that, saying that, but then just say that's going to come with a lower payroll. That's all you had to say, right?
No, that's fine. I get that, but yeah, and the communication to the fan base, they need to be way more introspective. And they've started to do that a little bit, but like they flat out lied to us. They flat out lied to the fan base from 2016 to 2022. It was a complete and total lie. Everything that they said to us was a sham. I'm a sucker for apologies. I'm not saying they need to get up and be like, I'm sorry, but like they need to admit fault more often and be like, we messed this up. Like, we messed up that Miguel Vargas trade last year. We messed up this X, Y, and Z. And if you start being like, at least holding yourself accountable, then I can get on your side more. But they don't do that. Their communication to the fan base stinks. And like, I don't want to say that as if they owe me personally or the fan base, like, state secrets or anything like that. But we are what your consumer base at the same time. So if we don't like the product, we're not going to invest in the product. So stop lying to us, because that's just going to turn us off even more, and it's gross. It's just gross.
Yeah. And stop blaming us too. Like how you blame Bridgeport because he can't afford Juan Soto.
Right. I just went on a whole rant right there, but I could have said it as simply as that. Just stop blaming us. Stop blaming us. Blame yourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
And they can absolutely afford Juan Soto if they chose to pursue him. They absolutely could. With my job, it's weird. I love baseball. It's my absolute favorite thing on earth. It's a part of my fabric as a human being. But at the same time, I've gotten to know a lot of people. I've flown really close to the sun. I know how baseball works behind the scenes, and it's a dirty game. And whenever a Major League Baseball team cries poor, I don't care if it's Milwaukee Brewers, Kansas City Royals, Chicago White Sox especially, it's all BS. They can absolutely afford anybody. Any team can. They're making money hand over fist. Maybe not year over year, but you buy a baseball team, that thing's appreciating at a 12-15% clip annually. You're going to make your money back when you sell it. So go, and if you have a team, you should be hell-bent on winning a World Series every single year. Obviously, only one team can do that, but it's a bad place when only it's going to be the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers. Those three teams. Maybe there will be a wild card stupid team like the Mariners or someone who throws them $1 billion and is looking to trade them a year from now. But it's like there should be 30 teams competing for Juan Soto services, not the same 3. And to me, that it's a major turnoff,
Especially since he said, I'm available to all 30 teams. Because
exactly.
I firmly believe that he is looking for the richest contract. So if the Athletics came and said, hey, We want you to headline our Vegas. Here's, $800 million. I think he's going to take it. This isn't Shohei Ohtani who was saying, the only reason why Jerry should have laughed at Shohei Ohtani was Shohei Ohtani wasn't coming to Chicago. He made it clear he's staying in Los Angeles, maybe going to Toronto. Okay. But Juan Soto has said, I am going to the highest bidder, whoever that is. I'll go to Japan if, I could see him doing that if they gave him $1 billion.
I would love it if a Japanese team did that just to stick it to Major League Baseball ownership.
All right, Dave had two good ways of looking at Will Venable's hiring that I explore with him. Let's get to it after the break on Locked On White Sox. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you the boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sex health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Him provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatments. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compound products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms, so make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple and Spotify. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. All right, well, let's jump back into my conversation with White Sox Dave and hit on his two reactions to Will Venable being hired as the new manager. I loved the two ways to look at the Sox hiring Will Venable that you wrote on Barstool.com. What is the Jerry PTSD response versus, hey, the Sox actually made a non-insular hire?
Yeah, so if you're looking at it and so everything that I've already kind of talked about, like the Will Venable hire on paper, fantastic. He was highly sought after. He turned down the Mets last year, which does I don't know why it didn't make sense to me, but whatever. Great resume, worked in front offices, played two-sport athlete, gets a clubhouse, which I think is absolutely important. He's been in a clubhouse, and I know there's a lot of stat heads in White Sox Twitter that are like, oh, manager doesn't matter. Give me the best players. I don't care if they're all jerks in the clubhouse, don't like each other. Like the Oakland A's, 25 different cabs to the Coliseum in the 70s and 25 different cabs on the way home, that type of thing. That's BS too. That's ridiculous too. You need a good clubhouse culture. You need a winning culture. I was talking to Aaron Rowand yesterday. That interview will come out on Friday, I believe. And he said it best. When he was playing in 2005, there was a lot of most of the time, and especially the 2005 White Sox, a good example. You would have those veterans that were on the bench that were making a couple million a year, like Carl Everett, for instance. Who was the DH after Hurt got hurt that year. Guys like that. And now organizations are just going for the youngest guy, the cheapest guy, the guy that's a kind of, fine backup prospect, like a utility guy. Kind of like that lefty kid that was he hit the hell out of the ball in the minors this year and made it up to the Sox. Actually, I'm blanking on his name, the lefty.
Zach DeLoach?
No.
Fletcher.
No, and then one of those other guys. He came out of nowhere this year.
Brooks Baldwin.
I'm sorry?
Brooks Baldwin.
Yes, Brooks Baldwin. Guys like that. That guy was overmatched by Major League pitching this year. But if you take the Los Angeles Dodgers, for instance, last couple of years they had Jason Hayward on their bench. Now, Jason Hayward obviously has not been he didn't live up to that big contract he got with the Cubs and everything. But that's the way Rowan explained it to me is like, that's a guy that's just a perfect clubhouse linchpin that will come in, have a big hit. Like, it's beyond stats with a clubhouse like that. And it made sense to me, you know, like Brooks Baldwin, he doesn't know how to win at this level yet. He doesn't know how to attack big league pitching yet, but like, that's a guy that the White Sox historically would rely on in the utility role over the last 15, 20 years or whatever, you know? And it's like they've gotten away from that. They've gotten away from that. And it's ugly to me.
Or they've gotten the bad veterans, and then they get rid of the one that would be at least someone worth keeping, like Kevin Pillar. Right? You know, yeah, they get rid of Kevin Pillar, and they keep Tommy Pham. Don't get me wrong, love Tommy Pham, loved watching. I
actually do like Tommy. Tommy Pham's a good example of that. Tommy Pham's like a perfect, like 25th, 26th guy on any team in baseball. You know.
Yeah. But he was also a lead more by example guy from just the reports. I mean, you know, I know you're a little bit closer, but it sounded like he was more of a lead by example. Guys would have to come to him to talk to him than him just saying, hey, I'll help you out. Where Kevin Pillar, at least, you know, he flat out said in spring training, this team's a joke. This is what we got to do. Didn't produce. They cut him, and he goes to the Angels and
he was like my career.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that was just crazy there. With Chris Getz,
funny because he was in our office like a few weeks before he got released. And he needed like 400 at bats or something to hit the 10 total service years, which is a big deal because you get. So he's like, dude, I'm just like, I need to start hitting because I can't get cut. Obviously, he got cut, didn't start hitting, goes to LA and lights it up. So I was happy for him.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool story there. I'll admit though, I was super happy Venable got hired, but is being super excited a little bit of an overreaction, even though because I agree with like. I think I want him, if anything, managers matter in terms of can you be net neutral or can you be a little bit above replacement level?
Yep.
So am I just being way too excited, though, with all his background and all that?
So I'm being long-winded. This goes back to your original question. I'll tie it all together. So, yes, you should be excited, but then you got to consider the Jerry Reinsdorf PTSD. It doesn't matter because, like, it could be Tito Francona or Bobby Cox or Ozzie Guillen in that dugout, and they're not winning anything of substance next year or probably in 2026 either, you know, because the owner refuses to invest at the major league at any level, really. We've heard how bad their Dominican and Latin American operations are and have been over the years. Obviously, they're trying to remedy that, but it's like we've heard over the last 5 years even – like, oh, we got someone coming in to head R&D. We got a new analytics team. Like, we've heard this before, you know? We have heard this before. That's where the Jerry Reinsdorf PTSD kicks in. It's like, all right, you got the best manager on the market, per se. Awesome job. Don't stop there. So, like, to me, it's like, it's great, but it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah. Do you trust Chris Getz after this hiring and all the reported changes that he's made? Because he seems to be like the one guy that has at least finally been able to show Jerry, like, do this. And also, okay, we'll semantically change analytics to research and development.
Yeah. I mean, they've like, to me, it's you have to show me with like actual concrete, tangible results before I give you a pat on the back. They've lost the ability to have benefit of the doubt for me. They like if it's great that Chris Getz seems like he knows what's wrong with the organization. I don't trust that he will be the right person to be the like I don't know the guy that fixes it, I guess. Because I don't know if that it is fixable because of who owns the team. I think it's a tall task for him, and I just you got to prove it first before I say a good job, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. That's why I wanted to get another opinion on that because it's like it's sad that we have to trust him. Like we have no choice but to trust him. You know, that's
we
why
don't really have a choice. But like I'm more in wait and see mode. Like if their pitching development has actually been good for a long time, as a whole. Like even guys like Matt Foster, I know they just let him walk yesterday, but like he was a 20th rounder. Like they have done well on the pitching side for a while. I I think that's more, I don't know. If you drafted Chris Sale, that's a guy that you don't really need to develop at the same time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Garrett Crochet, I think they handled him perfectly this year, to their credit. That's still a guy that throws 100 with an unbelievably wicked slider. And his command this year was fantastic, you know? Did they develop that, or is he just that good? I'm playing both sides of the fence here, I know, but like I don't trust that they're gonna invest properly and hire the right people on the hitting side to turn into anything of substance.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there, especially because I would argue too, it's easier to develop pitching if you get the right pitching lab. Like you got to get the right technology, and as long as you draft guys that have velocity or can spin the ball, you can construct pitching. And they got the guy. Like I'm going to hold on to Brian Bannister for grim death. But what they need to do is do you trust them to do the same thing with hitting? I would love for them, and that's where I was like, Will Venable should make that hire. It's not just a hitting coach. Hire a hitting guru for the entire organization. Do everything from top to bottom.
So I'm not going to name his name in this conversation, but in 2021, I believe it was like June, July of 2021. Fans were starting to be able to get back in the stadium at like a higher percentage and all that. World was opening up more. And I was at the dog park and I got a call from someone. I was bitching about it. I was yelling about the Sox and complaining about the Sox because they were like fizzling around 500 that year. And this was after the playoff year in 2020. And I got a call from one of the players on the team. He's like, and he was upset. And he was telling me, he's like, so when I was coming through the minor leagues, obviously Charlotte's North Carolina, he's like, I became tight with a bunch of the Durham Bulls because Durham's close by Charlotte, I guess. And I played with and against a bunch of Rays players. And he's like, the moment you not just are drafted as a first round pick, you're drafted as a 20th round pick, you're signed without getting drafted. You are instructed to, as soon as every game ends, you have meetings with the coaching staff, and every ounce of hitting philosophy starts from the moment your ink hits the paper, and it filters up through the entire organization. And it doesn't matter if you were a 20th round pick for the Rays. They find the guys that will fit their mold of how to, construct a major league hitter. And look what they do. He's like, the White Sox, we end the game and we're sitting in the clubhouse drinking a couple beers. We'll go to the bar, and he's like, and we'll get like the high school speech, like, oh, good job, you threw strikes today. And I was like, man, that's like. And then this whole article comes out a couple weeks back talking about how every ounce of the hitting philosophy, like one guy will be like, oh, you got to lift the ball more. Or one guy's like, no, you got to work oppo more. Or you got to do this with your, and they're just getting different sets of information from different coaches at different levels. And it's like, how do you not know that's just a massive problem? Giving your players different sets of information on how to succeed. It's wild to me. So yes, to your point, that is absolutely something they need to do. They need to like have even if a few years from now that philosophy doesn't work, so long as it's streamlined through the entire organization, the process will be right. And I'll accept that. It's like, oh, you got to change the process, but the process on, getting everybody on the same page from low A all the way, or Dominican Summer League, doesn't matter, all the way up through major leagues, it has to be the same.
Yeah, especially lift the ball in the air. Guaranteed rate field plays well to lifting the ball. I mean, I know it's great.
Dude, easier. I hit a home run there in high school. It's not in, like, if you take BP, it is easy to hit a home. Like, it is a hitter's dream, and they haven't had offense for years now.
Yeah. I mean, Tony La Russa, he was the one that wanted them. There was, I think it was the Athletic article where Menachino was saying, let's put the ball in the air. And La Russa was like, no, we got to put the ball on the ground. And I think it's this resistance to, 2008 was a great example. They won the division, but they did have those scoring droughts, even 2005, but it doesn't matter. Then get 3 bat to ball guys. That's my hypothesis. You get 4 or 5 sluggers now that can put the ball in the air. You get a catcher. And then you get 3 contact guys, because I'm just going up, and where's my hypothesis? Look at the 2 best rosters the White Sox ever had. 1993, you had Lance Johnson Ozzie Guillen, Joey Cora, and Tim Raines too to get on base. In 2005, remember you had at the top of the order Scott Podsednik. What did he do? Get on base, and then
he
you
was
just
on
crush the
third
ball.
every at bat. Yeah,
and then you just crush the ball. Okay, and if you can't crush the ball, you still have those guys that can get on base
that manufacture the runs, right?
Yeah. So, and I would like to see that. And then, get a hitting guru like that. And that's why I'm also encouraged by Venable. Bring me that power game that Texas had. Keeping with this is the worst offseason theme, I gave Dave a few situations to discuss which is worse. I'll share that with you after the break on Locked On White Sox. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And I always maintain FanDuel spreads, over and under, and money lines, they're fun to play. But if you want to win big or at least double your money, FanDuel's parlays, props, and futures is the way to go. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all my everydayers. Appreciate your loyalty. Please hit the like button on today's episode. Recommend to your fellow Sox fans or baseball fans, friends, to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox or wherever they get their podcasts, as this show is available on all major platforms. Also, hope you voted today or are going to be voting. Make sure your voice matters. Make sure your voice is heard. It's the best way. And like I said, if you vote, you get to complain for another 4 years. All right, well, let's dive back into my conversation with White Sox Dave as him and I discussed a few situations of Eloy Jimenez or Yohan Moncada.
Oh, man.
And death is not an option.
I had a pretty special hate. I'm gonna go with Moncada. Basically because I heard he was a complete lazy bum.
All right. Keeping Andrew Vaughn.
I was told those guys all got paid way too early, and then once they got paid, they just mailed it and didn't care.
And that's another thing that I hope they learn.
That is from a player that was literal teammates of them.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I hope they learn their lesson. Understand who will keep working and pay them, and if they don't want to work, play the arbitration game. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there isn't. And I get hindsight's obviously 2020 with that. I got it at the time. I loved it at the time. Didn't work out,
Yeah.
So I don't hate that they did that with those players. I hate that they used those extensions as excuses to not sign anybody else good when it's clear that those players weren't actually as good as we thought they were. But I didn't hate them at the time.
All right. Keeping Andrew Vaughn or signing Anthony Rizzo?
You know what? I like Rizzo. I detest the Chicago Cubs. I've gotten to know Rizzo on a personal level. He would love to. I'm not going to say he would love to play for the White Sox. Nobody would love to play for the White Sox right now. But I do know he loves Chicago. I do know that the Andrew Vaughn experiment has not worked, and I couldn't care less if they just non-tendered him this year. But at the same time, I don't need to see Rizzo at first base for the White Sox. And maybe 5 years ago, but I don't need to see him there now.
Yeah, that's my argument too. Is I know White Sox Twitter was throwing that out there, but I'm like, if this was 2017, and he is a great human being. He stopped him, or we got to go down to the service level at a Brewers Cubs game because my brother-in-law knew Mike Moustakas, and Anthony Rizzo was walking by, stopped, signed autographs. My one nephew is a huge Cubs fan. It made his day. My other nephew had this bad surgery. Took some time. Really awesome dude. And he was one of the few Cubs that you could be like, well, I could root for him because he's actually
I'm talking more of a player level. When he tried to fight the Cincinnati Reds 1-on-10.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a guy that I want on. I'd go to war for. And he is insanely respected in clubhouses across baseball. But at the same time, he should be chasing one last ring with someone, go be a platoon first baseman for whoever and chase that last ring. Cause obviously his playing days are waning. So I don't need to see him hit 230 with 22 bombs next year for the Sox. I'd rather see Juan Soto hitting 45 bombs for the Sox.
I agree with you, man. All right. People who hate Barstool or people who claim that the 1898 Cleveland Spiders are the worst team ever because of the literal record.
People who hate Barstool, like I don't care if you don't think we're funny. That's subjective. If you think like, man, you're a complete like you're a hack. I'm like, fine. Like that's your prerogative. That we're not for everybody. Totally get that. But like when they think we're like Satan and like all these ism words, like that drives me so nuts because not one of those people that say anything has ever had a conversation with any of us on any level aside from just yelling at us on the internet.
Yeah, no,
so I can't stand those people.
Yeah,
and it's like there has been a
agree.
few that I've gotten into it with pretty bad on the internet that I've met them at tailgates and stuff. And I don't want to say we're friends now, but like I'll say, hey, what's up, man? Like, you know. So and I know it bothers them that they meet me and they're like, oh, that's just a normal guy.
Yeah, it seems like all you guys are, especially Barstool Chicago, you guys all seem really normal. You seem like you're out here that you just want to entertain us.
I was working a 7 to 5 logistics job a few years ago. Yeah. We're pretty normal guys.
Yeah. So like it seems like all you guys are trying to do is just talk like fans on that type of stuff. So I've never understood the hate, at least for Barstool Chicago. Another 2004 Red Sox documentary or no 2005 White Sox documentary.
I talked about this with Rowan yesterday. So I'm like, the White Sox got kind of lucky that this offseason fell on the 20th anniversary because they can be like, oh, we were always going to have the 2005 White Sox here for Sox Fest this year. But something about like how they're leeching off of that team's success 20 years ago to make money, considering the current state of the franchise, that rubs me the wrong way. And I know it rubs AJ the wrong way. Rowan's not as much. You'll hear him talk about that on Friday, but I wish that I want to love that team, but I want that team to be like, all right, we're done celebrating them because we're celebrating the next great White Sox team, you know. Obviously that will be our first baby. That's our favorite child. It's my favorite month of my life. And I was only 16 and I miss those days dearly, but at the same time, I'd like to turn the page and enter a new era of White Sox greatness. And it's far away, you know? So yeah. I can avoid the Red Sox stuff. Like I just ignore it. The White Sox stuff, I can't avoid. It just makes me mad.
Yeah. All right. Finally, John Cusack or Dan Bernstein?
Oof. Who's worse? Cusack's worse. Bernstein, from like, I'm good friends with Shane Reardon. I was with him like 2-3 weeks ago, for the Bears Jags game. And everybody says that, Bernstein's great behind the scenes. Like he helps people out like financially with like financial planning and stuff. Apparently, like he truly wants people that are under his umbrella to succeed, which is awesome. I love that about him. Cusack's just a complete psychopath, broken brain. I'm not very political. I like to make fun of both sides. That's like my thing because I think they're both repugnant. But people like him that are just so like I'll just say it, anti-Trump. I'm like, dude, you need to get a life because like nothing really like he's infecting your brain to the point where you can't not think about him. It's like, shut up and just go and like play pickleball or something, you know, just like go and do stuff instead of crying about politics on the internet. He's like so far beyond gone. And the fair weather thing will never not bother me.
No, I agree. And the other thing is what drives me nuts about it. I like how you brought up, because again, I try to be an independent, but the other thing is like, and I hope people voted today, presidential elections, though, the president only controls your life or has an impact on your life only so much.
Nothing has changed for you over the last 8 years.
Yeah. It's the local
Trump,
officials.
Obama or Biden. Like we're all the sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all right. It's local officials that worry more. Like, again, your drinking water, that's your local official. I don't think Trump or Kamala are going to care about what your drinking water is. Nope. It's your local officials, you know? Those are the things that I pay attention more to.
Absolutely. Completely on the same side there.
All right. Well, appreciate your time there, Dave.
Appreciate you having me down to come on anytime you guys want me back.
All right. Also, finally, you have an event going on Saturday. I want to make sure you get that plug.
So we have Wish Fest on Saturday. Wish Fest is historically it was held at Bourbon Street in Marionette Park. If you haven't been there, it was an awesome time. We moved it up to City Center at the Salt Shed. The Salt Shed is it opened last year. It's the absolute coolest entertainment venue in the city. They have an outdoor stage and indoor stage. We'll be indoor, unfortunately, because it's November now, but 100% of ticket sales, booze, food sales, everything, 100% of it goes directly to families battling cancer. So it used to be historically a huge event on the South Side. Now that it's in City Center and we have a bigger venue, we want to incorporate like everybody from the North Side. So it's not a White Sox event at all. It's literally a charity. We have OAR playing, Mike Posner, Will Dorado, and Hans Williams. So they'll start at 4:00 and go through 11:00, and we'll have college football on. OAR will be playing, which is like my absolute favorite band growing up. Like them and Dave Matthews were my two absolute favorite bands. And it's just an incredible event. Everybody is just so happy celebrating Andrew Wisher, who passed away 11 years ago now of, I believe it was pancreatic cancer. And it's a family event too. So if you have little 5-year-olds, you want to get out of the house, absolutely welcome. Just go to Wish. It's WEISH fest.com and you can get tickets. And if you can't, you can donate directly to the cause. Everything's tax deductible. It's a legit charity. And I implore everybody to come out for it. You'll start to come to it every single year. It's my favorite thing we do in the fall. And obviously it's a great cause. So Todd, if you want to come, bring anybody you want to come with. It's a great, great time.
All right. Well, appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with a Way Back Wednesday segment going over the 5 best postseason home runs of all time. Feel free to leave comments about today's discussion with White Sox Dave. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dubber, at Locked On Sox, or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.